We're good. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today and giving us an opportunity to share with you about the events that unfolded last night on the campus of the University of Pittsburgh, where Mayor Ed Gainey and County Executive Sarah Innamorato were able to ensure a safe resolution to a situation that was becoming rapidly unstable last night. It is in a moment, I'll introduce Mayor Ed Gainey and then County Executive Sarah Innamorato. At that point in time, we will take a handful of questions. We also understand that there was a recent press conference on Second Avenue Commons. We're trying to keep that separate from this conversation, but we also have Public Safety Director Lee Schmidt here to answer questions as well. And if need be, we can do a gaggle at the end if necessary. At this point in time, I would like to welcome up to the podium the Mayor of the great city of Pittsburgh, the Honorable Ed Gainey.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today. Over the past several months, I've had the opportunity to hear from leaders and members of our Jewish community, as well as those from our Palestine and Arabic communities. The thing that I kept hearing is that they want to live in a city where they feel safe to go to work, safe to go to school, safe in places of worship, and safe as they go about their everyday lives in our great city. We have seen a rise in anti-Semitic behavior. And let me say this right now. I condemn any anti-Semitic behavior in this city. We don't need none of that here. And I want to make that known right now, that I'm speaking directly to everyone in this city when I say that we condemn anti-Semitic behavior. In addition, we also condemn anti-Arabic activity. And in order to build a city where everyone can feel safe, and it is clear to me that the only way we can reach this goal is to honor the humanity of everyone. We must honor everyone's humanity to create a city where everybody feels safe and everybody feels welcome and everybody feels they have a right to thrive. It also means that as we also make sure that we are safe in this city, and that just as I'm saying that I condemn the rest, I condemn homophobic, racism, and every other form of hate that is in this city. We cannot be for any hate. So let me be clear when I say this. Any hate that takes away from the greatness of this city, we as an administration, I as a person condemn. So as we move forward, we are always looking for ways in which we can pray for our people. And as the mayor of this city, I don't have any influence over international relations. What I do have is the ability to make sure that this city is safe. My role as mayor is to keep this city safe. And last night, our number one priority was about finding ways towards a safe resolution to a situation that had become unstable. The situation had become unstable, and my job as mayor is to keep us safe. That's my job. As I received information about the increase in stability of the encampment, I gathered with members of my senior leadership team and the county executive, and I want to thank Sarah for being here today. It was at that point that we made the decision to attempt to make contact with the individuals involved in the protest in order to de-escalate the situation. We can't bring peace and we can't bring safety if we don't engage in the situation and try to de-escalate in ways that everybody goes home safe. We want everybody to go home. Everybody to go home safe. We don't want to lose a life in the city to nothing. And as the leader of this city, I have a responsibility to ensure that if I can make a difference to ensure that everybody has an opportunity to go home safe, I'm going to do that every single time. I want people to go home to their loved ones, their moms, their dads, their husbands, their partners, whomever it may be. I want to make sure that in this city, we go home safe. As we made contact, we sat down and we made it clear to them that this was not an endorsement of demands. It was not an endorsement of demand. But in order to move people, we needed to break down barriers and silos, sit down with them. Other than sitting down and meeting with the chancellor, we did not discuss any of their other demands. Our conversation was focused solely on how to keep everyone safe. We provided them with information about our efforts to attempt to de-escalate the situation and provide our assessment of what was likely to happen so they could understand and be informed of the decisions they had to make for themselves. At the conclusion of the meeting, we facilitated their return to the encampment in order for them to share with those involved, and they made the decision to leave Pitt's campus safe. And we facilitated that. And the reason why that is so important is because anytime we have seen around the nation exactly what is going on college campuses. We've seen the violence, we've seen the outbreak. And when we as leaders can play a role to come together and have dialogue that can de-escalate situations in a way that everybody gets to go home, that's what we should do every single day in our city so that everybody feels welcome. It's up to us to keep our neighbors safe. It's up to us to keep our city safe. And we can only do it when we do it together. And so the actions that we took and the county exec took last night was just that we seen where it was becoming unstable. And we know exactly, because everybody watches the nightly news, of what can happen. And we refuse to let that happen. And I want to thank my seniors team. I want to thank county exec and her team for a phenomenal job of situation that we de-escalated and everybody went home safe. Thank you.
At this point in time, I'd like to bring us to the podium, the county executive, Sarah Namorado.
I want to thank Mayor Ed Gainey, the Pittsburgh Police, and our county police for their work last night to keep protesters safe and de-escalate an unstable situation on Pitt's campus and reach a peaceful conclusion. Last night, the mayor and I spoke to a faith leader inside the encampment who requested that we meet with a small group of people inside of the encampment who are part of the University of Pittsburgh's community. We met with individuals who identified themselves as students and instructors at Pitt. The people we spoke with were members of both the Jewish and Palestinian communities. We listened to their concerns and their stories, including those of a Palestinian student with family and friends in Gaza who have experienced anti-Arab harassment here in Pittsburgh. We heard their stories and their pain. And we understand that the requests made by the protesters are predominantly aimed at the leadership of the University of Pittsburgh. The mayor and I cannot speak on behalf of those demands, but have encouraged all those involved to engage in meaningful and respectful dialogue to address their concerns. Outside of listening to my constituents' concerns, my role as county executive, like the mayor's role, is to encourage a public safety response that prioritizes the safety of all people, civilians and officers alike. And I think, like the majority of Americans, I want peace in Gaza, mourn the loss of life, encourage the release of hostages, and hope a ceasefire can be reached quickly. Last night, we were able to keep the peace in Oakland, which is my primary responsibility as your county executive. And as a leader of this county who strives to build a community where everyone feels safe and welcomed, we will continue to balance and keep everyone's First Amendment rights intact while standing resolute against anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, racism, and hate in all of its forms. Thank you.
Sarah, you want to do it?
That's fine.
At this point in time, we'll take a couple of questions. Kylie?
Said that you spoke with students and faculty at Pitt, but a statement from the university says that the folks you spoke with had no affiliation with the university. How did you determine whether or not they were students and faculty?
They self-identified to us as members of the Pitt, that they were Pitt students or Pitt faculty.
You guys said there was basically an assessment of what was likely to happen in the event of violence with these protesters and having a conversation and giving them the option to determine the best course of action for them. What options were being considered?
The option that was being considered was for them to be safe. And we had a conversation about how we could de-escalate that and move them from the campus to the Shinley Plaza where they would disperse from there. And that was the option that we talked about, public safety. That it had got a little bit unstable, and being unstable, we couldn't predict what would happen. But again, we reiterated what we said or what I said earlier. Our job is to keep everybody safe. And so in that, we them that what happened made it unstable. And in order for us to get everybody to go home safely, there's a pattern that we can follow to get them there.
Prepared for
Yeah.
like tear gas or beanbags?
We'll do follow-up second. So let's get through this mission.
So on Instagram, the organizers threatened to escalate their actions if their demands weren't met. Did they say to you anything about that possibility in the future?
No,
What was the city or county's plan if the organizers did not agree to remove the encampment last night?
we didn't get that far about what our plan was. What we focused on is how we could be safe. You know, we focused on how we could de-escalate. That's what we focused on. And at the end of the day, well, it worked because everybody went home safe. Our police would have had to do what they would have had to do if anybody got hurt, injured, or the violence, and it became more unstable. But that wasn't our focus going in. Our focus going in was how do we de-escalate the situation where everybody gets to go home. That's the bottom line. That's what we focused on. We were strictly focused on making sure that everybody went home safe. And that's what occurred.
Julia?
Thank you. If that hadn't happened, though, were Pittsburgh police prepared to potentially use tear gas to bring in less than legal options, anything along those lines, if you could speak to that?
Yeah, so we did, after a bit of a escalation of a situation that happened yesterday afternoon, we did call in additional officers from the PPP as well as county police and state resources. The intent, as with any protest we have, we monitor the situation and respond as appropriate. That can, if it escalates significantly, it can go to the point of less lethal or tear gas, but our ultimate goal for public safety is always de-escalation, and de-escalation happens through conversation, not through physical action. So we are here to do that. That was our main focus, and that's what happened last night. And it, the outcome was helpful and positive that everyone went home, including, as the mayor has stated, it's and county exec stated, this is not just about protesters or our officers, but the general public, everyone around that area, to ensure everyone is safe, no one gets injured, and everyone goes home.
Jen?
Mayor Gainey, when you met face to face with this encampment, did you give any inkling that, look, there could be arrests ensuing if this does not de-escalate? Did you say anything like that? That if this continues to escalate,
Be a little bit more specific on your question, please.
did you mention to protesters that you talked to face, that look, if this isn't de-escalated, police are ready to come in and make arrests if needed?
There was a Twitter that mentioned that could happen. And they asked me, when I asked them, I said, absolutely, that could happen. And in the process of that, we want to make sure that it doesn't happen. We want to prevent that. And the way we do that is to work together to de-escalate the situation. And so absolutely, when they brought it, we were forthcoming. We were truthful with the fact that we don't know if they're coming or not. But what we do know is that if they do come, we know exactly what's going to happen. And so in that, let's make a new way and make sure that we de-escalate in the situation where everybody goes home.
Last question right here.
Can you just clarify the timing of it all? You had a conversation there, and then within how long after that did they say, okay, we're gonna pack up our encampment and leave?
Once it got past 1 o'clock, it all seemed the same. So, you know, it wasn't really I can't tell you the exact time, I'll be honest, and I'm not I'm just being honest here because, you know, I think maybe Maria can, but when I'm in the midst of having a conversation to de-escalate something, I'm not focused on the time. You know, I'm at a situation where as long as it takes, let's just make it happen. And my whole focus yesterday was, as well as the county exec, was we're here. We're here until we can ensure that everybody goes home safe. You know, that was the mission and that's what we focused on.
So all told, the meeting lasted anywhere from 2.5 to 3 hours where the conversation took place. And then roughly about 30 minutes for the individuals involved from the encampment to go back, have that conversation with everybody involved before they gave word to us that they wish to leave peacefully that day.
One more question.
One more question. Right here.
You know, protests happen on college campuses all the time. There may be more this fall with contentious issues like the presidential election. Given how this was handled this week, is the city or county going to change its response to student protests on campuses in the future?
We're establishing a meeting with chancellors of the universities and their chiefs. And we're going to have a conversation about how we work together to respond to certain situations, to make sure everybody goes home safe. That meeting is being planned.
Is that with all universities?
Yes.
That's all. Thank you, everyone.